Welcome to the deep dive. You sent over some really interesting stuff about entrepreneurial ecosystems.
hmm
And what strikes me right away is just how many ways there are to think about it. It's not simple.
No, it really
Yeah.
isn't. It's trying to grasp how everything connects in entrepreneurship. It's complex.
Right.
And this idea of an ecosystem is, well, it's a pretty helpful lens. Daniel Eisenberg's model often comes up.
Yes, I saw that. Eisenberg's 6 domains. So
Exactly.
that's our plan today, right? To really get into those 6 areas based on what you sent, see what makes these environments tick.
Yeah, understand what helps new businesses not just start, but actually succeed and grow.
And I think this framework is useful for, well, pretty much anyone interested in business or innovation, wouldn't you say? Or even just how regions develop.
Absolutely. And a key thing the sources highlight is that these aren't cookie-cutter systems.
Right.
Each one is unique. It grows based on its own local conditions, its history. Could be national, could be city level, could be just one industry.
That makes sense. You know, what works for tech in one place might be totally different from what helps, say, agricultural tech somewhere else.
Precisely. But Eisenberg does point to three kind of fundamental layers that are always there, regardless.
Okay, what are those?
Well, there's the general business environment, the investment climate, then you have the actual people and organizations involved in interacting,
The players.
the players, exactly. And finally, the culture, the attitudes towards entrepreneurship. These things really shape how those 6 domains function.
Got it. Okay, let's dive into the domains themselves then, starting with policy.
Right.
This feels like the government's role, setting the ground rules. Your sources really stress how policy can, well, make or break things.
It really can. Think about regulations.
Yeah.
How easy is it actually to start a business?
Like all the permits and registrations, that sort of red tape we hear about.
Exactly that. The sheer number of steps, the approvals needed. If it's too complex, too bureaucratic,
It could just put people off before they even begin.
definitely, it can really stifle things.
And what about things like tax incentives? The sources mention tax breaks for startups. That sounds like a direct boost.
Oh, absolutely. Things like tax holidays, where a new company might not pay certain taxes for a period.
That frees up cash right when they need it most.
Precisely. It gives them breathing room,
Yeah.
and it can also be a big draw, attracting entrepreneurs to a specific region.
So it's not just about making it easy to start, but also encouraging growth.
Yes, and having stable, predictable laws helps businesses plan for the longer term, for expansion.
So a supportive government, one that understands these needs, really lays the groundwork. Okay.
Hmm.
So next up, finance. This seems absolutely essential. You can have a great idea, but without money.
It's going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
That's right. Access to capital is incredibly critical at all stages, really.
The sources talked about the whole range, didn't they? From like friends and family,
Yeah, the classic bootstrapping or initial seed money.
all the way to angel investors, venture capital, private equity for, scaling up.
Exactly. And one interesting point from the sources was about the type of early funding. Is it just cash? Or does it come with advice, mentorship?
Ah, so the smart money idea.
Yeah, that seems to make a real difference in survival rates, suggesting it's not just any capital, but the right kind.
And it's not just about selling shares, is it? What about loans, debt financing?
That's crucial too. Access to bank loans, maybe even tapping into public markets later on. That's often key for scaling, buying equipment, hiring more people, expanding.
So a healthy mix of available funding options really acts like fuel for the fire.
It's a catalyst, definitely. When entrepreneurs can find the money they need when they need it, the whole ecosystem moves faster.
Okay, so we have the rules and the resources, but what about the softer side? Let's talk culture.
Ah, yes.
The sources called it the soul of the ecosystem. I like that. What does that mean in practice?
Well, it's about the underlying beliefs and attitudes. How does society view entrepreneurs? Is it seen as a positive, desirable path?
If it's respected, more people might try it. Makes sense.
Exactly. And then there's that spirit of self-reliance mentioned, a
Right.
culture where starting your own thing is valued.
Yeah, seeing it as a viable option, not just something unusual. And what about failure? That's a big part of entrepreneurship.
A huge part. Is failure seen as a fatal flaw, or is it viewed as, well, a learning opportunity?
A stepping stone almost.
Ideally, yes. A culture that tolerates failure, maybe even sees it as necessary for innovation, encourages risk-taking.
The sources mentioned stigma too, didn't they? If failing carries a heavy social cost.
People will be much more cautious, less likely to take those big leaps or even share what they learned from a failed venture.
And then there's the whole culture of research, innovation itself.
Right. Does the environment encourage new ideas? Experimentation. Finding better ways to do things.
That sounds like fertile ground. Plus, celebrating successes, the role models.
Very important. Seeing people who've made it provides inspiration, sure, but also often practical help.
How?
Well, successful entrepreneurs often become mentors, investors.
Hmm.
They reinvest their knowledge and capital back into the ecosystem. They become living proof it's possible.
Right, completing the cycle in a way. Okay, let's shift to the more tangible stuff. Institutional and infrastructural supports.
Okay.
This sounds like the nuts and bolts, the framework needed to operate.
Think of it as the underlying support system. So physical infrastructure is key. Good transportation roads, rail, airports for moving goods and people.
Essential.
And today, maybe even more critical, is digital infrastructure. Reliable, fast internet, it's non-negotiable.
It's like the digital highways. You need them for everything.
Absolutely. Then you have the institutional side, like the professional services network.
Right.
Accountants, lawyers, HR specialists, marketing folks.
The kind of expertise startups usually can afford in-house, especially early on.
Exactly. And also things like business incubators, accelerators, industry groups.
Support organizations.
Yeah, places that offer mentorship, resources, networking opportunities. They help connect the dots and stop startups from feeling isolated.
So it's the physical and the organizational scaffolding, really. Helps new businesses stand up and grow.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, next. Human capital. This is all about the people, right? The talent.
Yes. And crucially, it's about both the quantity and the quality of the workforce available.
So not just bodies, but skills.
Exactly. Do you have enough people with management experience, technical skills? That talent pool is vital.
And education comes into play here, obviously. The level of training, especially technical training.
Hugely important. You need skilled people to actually build the products, deliver the services. The sources even touched on a debate there.
Oh.
Yeah, about whether general education or very specific vocational training is more critical for driving entrepreneurship. It suggests the type of skills development matters.
Interesting. And what about experience? Having people around who've actually done the startup thing before.
That's incredibly valuable human capital. They bring practical know-how, they know the pitfalls, they often have networks.
And the sources mentioned immigrant workers, too.
Yes, the ability to attract talent from abroad can bring in new skills, different perspectives, global connections. It adds dynamism.
So developing people through education, training, and attracting diverse talent, that's fundamental for keeping the ecosystem healthy long term.
Absolutely fundamental.
All right, finally we get to markets. Because at the end of the day, you need someone to sell to.
You really do. You need customers, people or organizations willing and able to actually pay for what's being created.
That's the ultimate test, isn't it?
It is. Without that demand, nothing else really matters in the long run.
And these markets can look very different, as the sources pointed out. Local, national, global.
Yep. Serving consumers or other businesses or niche groups or large institutions.
So access to different types of markets is key.
The broader the access, the more opportunity there is for growth. It's not just if there's a market, but also what it's like.
How do you mean?
Well, are customers open to new things? Are they early adopters? Or more conservative? That cultural aspect of the market matters too.
Ah, interesting. Okay, let's try and pull this all together. We've walked through Isenberg's 6 domains.
Right.
Policy the rules, finance the money, culture the mindset, supports the infrastructure, both physical and organizational, human capital, the people and skills, and markets the customers.
That's the framework. And it's worth repeating what the sources stressed at the start.
That every ecosystem is unique.
Exactly. It's a unique mix of these things, shaped by local factors, by the people involved, by a culture that's always shifting and evolving. There's no single recipe.
This has been really, really insightful. So for everyone listening, as you think about these 6 domains, maybe a final thought, consider an entrepreneurial scene, you know your city, maybe an industry you follow. Which one of these 6 domains do you think is the most critical right now for its development, and why?
That's a great question. Thinking about how they all interact.
Exactly. How that interplay makes the whole thing work, or maybe where it's getting stuck. It's a dynamic picture. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.